Rain poured relentlessly over the city as people hurried past the old bus station, too busy to notice the elderly man sitting alone on a broken wooden bench. His clothes were clean but worn, and his trembling hands clutched a small paper bag containing all he had left. Most people looked away. Some pretended not to see him. Others simply walked faster. But one stranger stopped. That single moment of kindness would change two lives forever. Daniel Carter was a 34-year-old construction worker who lived a simple life. He wasn't rich. He didn't own a fancy house or drive an expensive car. Every dollar he earned went toward paying rent, helping his sick mother, and keeping food on the table. That evening, he had just finished a 12-hour shift. His back ached, and his boots were soaked from the rain. All he wanted was to catch the last bus home. As he approached the station, he noticed the old man shivering. People passed him without a second glance. Daniel hesitated. He reached into his pocket and counted the money he had left. Just enough for dinner. He looked back at the old man. Without thinking twice, Daniel walked into a nearby cafe and bought a hot bowl of soup, fresh bread, and a cup of coffee. He placed the tray gently in front of the stranger. "Sir," Daniel said softly, "you look cold. Please have something warm." The old man's eyes filled with tears. "No one has spoken to me all day," he whispered. Daniel smiled. "Then today changes." The old man slowly ate the meal while Daniel sat beside him, even though it meant missing his bus. For nearly an hour they talked. The old man introduced himself as Henry. He explained that he had once owned a successful printing business, but after losing his wife, making poor financial decisions, and trusting the wrong people, he had lost everything. "I never imagined I'd end up here," Henry admitted. Daniel listened without judgment. Before leaving, Daniel removed his own warm jacket and placed it around Henry's shoulders. "You'll need this more than I do." Henry looked shocked. "But what about you?" "I'll be fine." Daniel smiled again and walked away into the cold rain wearing only his thin shirt. He never expected to see Henry again. Life continued. Years passed. Daniel kept working hard. Whenever he saw someone struggling, he helped if he could. Sometimes it was buying groceries for an elderly neighbor. Sometimes it meant fixing a broken wheelchair for free. Other times he simply listened to someone who needed encouragement. People often asked why he helped strangers when he barely had enough himself. His answer never changed. Kindness doesn't require wealth. It requires a willing heart. Despite his generous nature, life remained difficult. His mother became seriously ill. Medical bills piled higher every month. Eventually Daniel lost his apartment and moved into a tiny rented room. Still, he refused to complain. He believed that every act of kindness mattered, even if nobody noticed. One Monday morning, Daniel attended an interview at one of the largest construction companies in the state. Hundreds of applicants waited nervously. The salary was far better than anything he had earned before. This job could finally change his life. After several hours, Daniel's name was called. He entered a luxurious office. Behind a large wooden desk sat a silver-haired businessman surrounded by executives. The moment Daniel looked at the man, he froze. It was Henry. Only now he wore an elegant suit instead of worn clothes. Henry stood slowly. His eyes widened. "Daniel." Daniel blinked in disbelief. "Henry." The room fell silent. Executives exchanged confused glances. Then, without warning, Henry walked around the desk and embraced Daniel tightly. Everyone watched in complete shock. Some employees had never seen their chairman smile before. Henry turned toward the executives. "This man once saved me." The room remained silent. Henry continued. 10 years ago, when I had nothing, everyone ignored me. Everyone except Daniel." He described the rainy evening. The hot soup. The jacket. The conversation. The dignity Daniel had given him when the world treated him as invisible. Many executives lowered their heads. Henry smiled warmly. "After that day, I found hope again." He explained that shortly afterward, an old business partner had located him and offered him a chance to rebuild his company. Henry accepted. Years of determination transformed his small business into a successful corporation. "But none of that would have happened," Henry said, "if one stranger hadn't reminded me that my life still had value." He looked directly at Daniel. "I searched for you for years." Daniel was speechless. "You searched for me?" Henry nodded. "I wanted to thank you." Instead of continuing the interview, Henry canceled every remaining appointment that afternoon. He invited Daniel into a private conference room. For hours they talked about everything that had happened during the past decade. Daniel shared stories about caring for his mother. Henry listened carefully. When Daniel finished, Henry quietly asked, "Why didn't you ever expect anything in return?" Daniel smiled. "Because kindness isn't an investment. It's a gift." Henry's eyes became emotional. "You've taught me something I'll never forget." The following morning, every employee gathered in the company's auditorium. Rumors spread quickly. Some believed the company was announcing a merger. Others expected budget cuts. Instead, Henry stepped onto the stage beside Daniel. He told the entire company the story of the rainy evening. By the end, many employees were wiping away tears. Henry then made a surprising announcement. "Starting today, Daniel Carter becomes Director of Community Outreach." Applause erupted. Daniel couldn't believe it. The position wasn't given because of pity. Henry explained that someone with Daniel's compassion was exactly the kind of leader the company needed. His new role focused on helping local communities, supporting struggling families, and organizing charitable projects. Daniel accepted with gratitude. Months later, the company had changed dramatically. Employees volunteered every weekend. Scholarships were created for students in need. Meals were delivered to homeless shelters. Medical assistance programs helped elderly residents. Communities that had once been forgotten finally received support. Reporters asked Henry why the company invested so much money in helping strangers. His answer was simple: "Because one act of kindness rebuilt this company long before it rebuilt our finances." One winter afternoon, Daniel returned to the same old bus station where he had first met Henry. The broken bench had been replaced. A small community shelter now stood nearby. Inside, volunteers served hot meals every evening. A bronze plaque rested near the entrance. It read, "This shelter exists because one stranger chose kindness over convenience." Daniel smiled quietly. No name appeared on the plaque. It didn't need one. Nearby, a young woman noticed an elderly lady struggling to carry heavy grocery bags. Without hesitation, she rushed over to help. Daniel watched as they disappeared down the sidewalk together. Another act of kindness. Another unseen beginning. Perhaps years from now, that simple decision would change another life. Maybe even hundreds. Because kindness has a remarkable way of traveling farther than anyone can imagine. It moves from one heart to another. From one generation to the next. Its true reward is rarely immediate. Sometimes it returns after days. Sometimes after years. Sometimes never in ways we expect. But every sincere act leaves a mark on the world. As the sun broke through the clouds, Daniel looked toward the sky and whispered, "It was always worth it." Then he turned, smiled at the volunteers, rolled up his sleeves, and joined them in serving warm meals to those waiting in line. Because true kindness doesn't end with one good deed. It becomes a way of life.